And welcome back to Fujitsu World Tour London 2018, where we continue to bring you insight by vertical. To recap, if you're a technologist working in retail and you want to understand the latest challenges that are impacting retail, all you need to do is go and find our Facebook Live on retail, and hopefully we're going to give you some insight that triggers some conversations back in the boardroom. Up next, we're talking manufacturing, which is quite pertinent given where we've perched. I popped inside to the demo zone here. With me, we've got Lee Hopley, Chief Economist from EEF, Graeme Wright, CTO for manufacturing at Fujitsu. Let's talk trends, economic trends within manufacturing.
Right. Yes.
Hit you with a big question early. What are they?
What's been happening? The last 18 months has been good for manufacturing in the UK and globally, actually. We've had a pretty solid pickup in the world economy. European markets have been doing rather better, and UK companies have been really benefiting from that from an export point of view. I think we're potentially hitting choppier waters now, so we're starting to see a bit of softening in Europe, and then there's the big question of trade tensions. Will this escalate? Where does it end? And how will it affect business confidence? And then, of course, there's the Brexit piece in the UK domestically, all of which could potentially weigh on investment and the UK economy. So we are coming off the back of a really good 18 months, but I think it's a bit more uncertain times ahead.
And that's got to create a challenge for businesses wanting to change and evolve and deliver new technology. Is this a time to do it? Do they wait? If they're already started, would they pull a plug on it?
I think it comes down to the investment, and sort of the issue of the scale of the investment. And I think sort of like being able to do things in a more agile way. That's probably the way to do the investment, smaller pieces, and that because that's going to de-risk things, and that's going to allow you to change direction, because we're living in a very uncertain time at the moment.
There's been a bit of a theme coming out of World Tour today when I've been conducting these interviews. The boardroom, is it aligned to the technologists that are delivering the change? Where are we at within manufacturing? Are they on board with what's required, or do they need to invest more?
I get the sense that industry has become much more fluent in the whole language of the fourth industrial revolution over the last couple of years. How that is translating into hard investments that are being signed off by the board, I think, is more open to question. I think there's a lot of uncertainty about the returns to some of these investments at the company level, how we've got the skills and capabilities to take those forward. So I think there's still a bit of work to do on that front.
Yeah, and I think if you think of the scale of the investment and the level of risk they're having to take, I'm not sure that the board always is fully bought into some of the things that are going on, or possible nowadays. They're not quite. They don't understand the value of data and what that means to a business. If you're a Google, you're a Facebook, actually they understand the value of data and sort of the technology that's going on with the fourth industrial revolution, etc. delivers that data, so it's delivering value, but whether the boardroom understand how to exploit that, and therefore whether they're fully bought into the change, I think that's still a big question at the moment.
And I think there's a point about sort of what do we do first? How do we make sure we're taking our supply chain with us? And are we moving forward in a way that meets the requirements of all our different customers? And I think that's a kind of difficult balancing act for some sort of small and medium-sized companies.
Let's talk next 3 years and the hot topics. And I love asking this because the moment we've answered it, it's all going to become redundant, such as the speed that we work. But let's assume that's not going to happen. What do we expect to be seeing over the next 3 years within manufacturing?
I think for me, from a technology as a CTO, I think the technologies around traceability in the supply chain are going to become really important. Whether that's for being able to do more frictionless trade, or whether it's just about product authenticity and actually maintaining the actual supply chain security. I think that's going to be a big area. So I think we're going to see a lot more solutions looking at, particularly for slightly higher value goods, or particularly goods that are higher in tax, where actually they're going to want to see that traceability of the flow of currencies. And you have to put that in the context of Brexit, etc. And there's various regulations coming in around tobacco that's going to force people to actually identify where tax has been paid on each individual packet. So I think it's those sorts of things, and I can only see that getting wider.
What do you think, Lee?
I think I would agree with that. Certainly when we talk to manufacturers and they think about their journey through the fourth industrial revolution, they think about it in terms of kind of optimizing their own manufacturing processes, and I think some of that work is underway. And then we get on to how do we optimize our supply chain, and I think that very much speaks to the technology that you were talking about. And then I think further out beyond the 3 years you're asking about, it's looking at how does technology change our business model, so we're offering something different to our customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got to talk Brexit.
Do we?
The MPs have been doing their best to keep this front of news in the past week, haven't they? Feels like we took one step forward, perhaps another step backward. I guess whether we do exit, when we exit, that's got to present a huge challenge to manufacturers right now. How do they plan for that? How do they respond to the challenge of that?
I think some larger companies in particular have, they've been very alive to this for really a couple of years now, looking at contingency plans, looking at their options in terms of supply chains, how they structure their own operations in terms of different locations. And I think they will be ready to respond to the detail of the white paper which we're seeing at the moment. There's still a long way to go in the negotiation process and not an awful lot of time to do it. And there's an awful lot of companies that really haven't started this contingency planning process at the moment. I think we have to be confident that we've seen manufacturing come through turbulent and uncertain times in the past, and we can do so again. But this is causing a huge amount of uncertainty, and it really is keeping investment at bay, which is a big concern.
I've been asking everyone here at World Tour this question. A lot of your industry peers and colleagues will be watching this and probably had their interest piqued by some of your insightful comments. But if there was a single piece of advice, we'll come to you first, Graeme, a single piece of advice that we were looking to impart to help businesses address the challenge of change and digital transformation, what would it be?
I think for me it's about doing lots of small things quickly, learning, making sure you can scale up, making sure you don't go too far with any one investment that actually is in the wrong direction, particularly where we're still trying to understand what the future trade agreements are going to be, what the requirements are going to be. So, without any big transformation that we're going to go through in this area, you've got to keep things small, keep them fast, learn, but you've got to have them in the context of, a holistic sort of direction that you're trying to go in, and so focus on what the outcomes need to be as an end goal, and then look at all the small things you can do. Join up the dots.
Lee?
That's good advice, and that's one way to take your board with you. I guess the other kind of point from our perspective is to take a global view. There's lots of domestic uncertainty we know here in the UK, and some big international things that we're grappling with as well. But this digital transformation is happening everywhere, and industry needs to make sure it's keeping pace. So just keep an eye on what your competitors are doing.
Sage advice indeed. Thank you both for your time, Lee and Graeme. Hopefully that's given you some food for thought and some conversations to trigger back within the boardroom. If you have any questions for either Lee or Graeme, drop us a note to any of our social channels. We will put the questions to them and come back to you. Thanks for watching.